The Phoenix Police Department has a new tool for fighting crime in the city, and the bomb squad has a new arsenal that's making the job safer. Watch On the Issues for these stories and more coming up next. Welcome to On the Issues. Happy holidays. I'm Paula Moore. When the city's police department lost Hunter, a police dog, officials knew it was going to be tough finding a replacement. But now a newcomer is ready to fill the gap. Suzanne Crawford has more in this report.
They're loyal, obedient, and man's best friend. And it's these qualities that make dogs a wonderful tool for the Phoenix Police Department. Their keen noses and sure-footedness help keep officers out of the line of fire.
I think it's a given that if it wasn't for Hunter, my previous partner, that I probably wouldn't be sitting here talking to you today. The dog saved my life.
But not just any dog can be a part of the police force. Intense training is required.
You start out with just basic obedience. You have to have the dog under control before you can start any type of police dog work.
Pako is Kozel's latest partner, and you can see they've already become quite a team.
The relationship you have with the animal is just as if you were to have a dog yourself. You take the dog home, you bond with the animal, the dog becomes your friend, your partner. It also becomes part of the family.
This trust and closeness between dog and officer are what help make the job worthwhile.
It's probably the best job on the department. You have a dog that will give you unconditional love and will work harder than any officer that's out there in the street.
Ken Lynch for On the Issues.
On the Issues now welcomes Councilmember Siebert from District 1 and Jeff Kozel from the K-9 unit. And we have another guest today, Pako.
Yes, we do. This is the new dog in the department, Pako. You may remember from several months ago, PetSmart donated $5,000 for a new K-9, not as a replacement to the dog that we unfortunately lost, Hunter, but as a substitute because there is no replacement. But this is the $4,995 dog, and what a beautiful animal.
Tell us a little bit about Pako.
I was fortunate enough to get Pako in the last month of August of this year. My supervisor, Sergeant Jeff Fenton, went to a kennel in Northern California. We had information that the kennel had imported approximately 10 dogs from Holland, with Pako being one of the dogs. My supervisor knows this owner of the kennel on a personal basis, and this gentleman had heard about the tragedy involving my former partner. And the owner of the kennel was very high on this animal and gave us a recommendation we come take a look at the dog. Sergeant Fenton went up there and tested the dog, and just in preliminary tests at the kennel in California, was quite impressed and was able to bring the dog back with him. And we've been a hit ever since. We've bonded well.
Now, Jeff, besides having the good relationship with the dog, what about the training? What kind of training has Pako been going through?
We recently completed at the 1st of December our basic handlers course. With the Phoenix Police Department K-9 unit, a basic course consists of obedience, handler protection, building search, field searches, just the general run-of-the-mill, searches that we do every night. The dog did extremely well, and we were able to complete the training in 4 months.
So he's very quick study.
Yes, ma'am.
Very
Absolutely.
quick study. Great.
Absolutely.
Now, how does this play into the police department, Councilman, and what you're hoping the dog will be able to add?
Well, first of all, the main reason I'm really ecstatic about this is so many times they'll get a new animal and the dog will wash out in training and will not be successful. And I'm just so glad to see that this one in particular was a success, not only because of the loss, but because we had corporate donations that paid for it. And like I say, such a beautiful animal, a nice addition to Phoenix PD.
And Pako, do you have a few words you want to add to our conversation here?
Sounds like Pako
He's
does.
seems very responsive. Any little sound in the studio and he's responding.
Yes, ma'am. As you saw when we came in here, he wanted to check everything out. And it's the thing that we look for. The dog is inquisitive. If the dog is not inquisitive, then he's not going to want to go out and search, you know, on a nightly basis for us. So the dog was a perfect candidate when we did the preliminary testing. And as we went into the field search work and the building search, he just went through training like there was no tomorrow.
Okay.
He did a very, very good job for us.
Great. Now, you also mentioned that he knows when it's time to work and when it's time to relax.
Yes,
You're
ma'am.
with him on a regular basis.
The dog lives with us.
Okay,
He's-
Pako.
He is basically a house dog when we're off duty.
Okay.
With Phoenix, the canine unit, all handlers on the unit take their dogs home with them. And it's a bonding process because the dog learns that, you know, I'm his handler, we're partners together. And the dog, we build a bond, and it's a protective bond. The dog knows that, you know, to trust me, and I obviously trust him with my life. When the dog goes home, we're instructed and we treat the dog just like a regular house dog. And after 10 hours of work all night long, he basically just wants to sleep. And around the house, he just basically is a couch
So he turns it
potato.
on, turns it off.
Absolutely.
He becomes just a regular pet.
Yes, ma'am.
Pet at home.
That's it.
Great.
But I do hear he loves Christmas and Christmas trees. Is that true?
We had a little unfortunate accident. He does get a little wild when it's time to go to work, and he was going through the living room and kind of backed into the Christmas tree and knocked it over to a certain tilt.
Oh boy.
But it's part of the job of being a canine handler, so you take the ups and the downs.
Councilman, we have other dogs throughout the city as well.
Yes, throughout the city, and it's just it's a group of dedicated officers that put a lot of time and effort not only to train their dogs, but to be able to care for these animals, as Officer Cazell said, at home. And it's nice to see that you're going to have an animal that has the drive to do the work, which is play for them, and then also to be able to be around children and to be a good house dog.
Jeff, what about the special situations where the dog would be used? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
With the Phoenix Police Department Canine Unit, our primary mission is the apprehension of major felony offenders, robbery suspects, burglary suspects, you know, high felonies. We have a fairly active unit. Unfortunately, we are used on a regular nightly basis, and that's our primary missions. Our tactical team also uses us on a barricade situations, whereas if they would need to use a dog for an entry or similar situations like that, we would utilize the dog.
So the dogs are a very important part of the force then?
Absolutely.
Do you see that growing in
I
importance?
hope so, because I think dollar for dollar, I think they're one of the best investments we can make. They are an expensive animal, but when you take the time and the cost in training, and you also look at the results, what you get out of these animals, again, dollar for dollar, it's one of our better investments.
And Jeff, does the training, is it ongoing? Is it something that continues?
It's ongoing. Our unit trains on a weekly basis. You have to keep the dogs up to speed. We train from just the obedience standpoint through the search work. It's a weekly training.
Tell us some high points of the training. I'm sure there have been some exciting moments.
Well, when I first took Pako home, we had picked him up at Sky Harbor, and the dog was what we call a green dog. He had no training whatsoever. And we were trying to just basically make sure he didn't run away and go down the street when I got him out of the car. But when we got him at home, we just tried to treat him as a regular pet for the first couple of weeks. And as he would go into the backyard, he is a young animal, and he is a chewer. And we have had our sprinkler system chewed. We've had just about anything that a new dog does, and I'm sure everybody's aware of if it's had animals that
I can
chew.
relate to that. I can totally relate to that.
We've had a lot of things chewed around the house, so it's still an ongoing problem, but again, being a canine handler is something that you live with.
And what about in the future? What are you hoping, what level are you hoping to get Pako at?
I would like to have him up to the level that my former partner was. My partner that was killed in April was the epitome of a police dog. And I can only hope that this dog would be half of what I had. And he has big shoes to fill, but I think he'll be a good prospect.
Councilman, what about the future of this program in the city? You see this as something that will continue to grow?
It will definitely grow. Not only does the council support these animals because of just their record. You look at what they've done, you look at the lives that they've saved, not only in the civilian end, but also the officers' lives. And it's a valuable resource that we cannot lose, and we definitely need to expand.
Jeff, and also, are dogs being used around the country and more so than usual?
Yes, ma'am. Unfortunately, the violence is escalating nationwide. And with our program, since I've been on the unit for 8 years, we've gone from 7 canine handlers up to our present level of 13 handlers. And we are utilized on a nightly basis. And the trends around the city, unfortunately, show that we're going to continue to be used.
And are there special schools, too, across the country where dogs, I'm hearing more reports of dogs being used in conjunction with the police departments.
There's several facilities where they have like in-house training.
Okay.
You know, various departments around the metropolitan area send their canine handlers to these schools for their training programs and also meet their new prospective partners. With Phoenix, we do all our training here within the city. We just search nationwide to find prospective canines. And as the councilman was saying earlier, the price of the animal seems exorbitant. However, you know, you have to realize that you're in competition with every police department in the nation that has a canine program. So it's very competitive, and you know, the price of the animal, you know, goes up when you have several people looking at the dog. This, my present partner here, Pako, was being looked at by the Los Angeles Police Department, and just by the gentleman that owned the kennel, knowing my sergeant, that's how we were able to basically pick him up without losing him to the Los Angeles Police Department.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And finally, is it a big challenge for you to train them?
It's a nightly challenge. It's a nightly challenge. They are animals, and it's an ongoing process.
Okay, well, thanks for joining us. Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
We'd like to acknowledge those who've helped contribute to the Police Canine Program, including PetSmart, Arizona Center, Pat Vent, and Ken Van Cott.